Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on The Weekend Show. So Nigeria is 63 years old. How have we fared so far? We still have state governors employing only their village people and their tribesmen into power. We still have people stealing from government coffers. We still can't get our elections right. We still shout up NEPA when power is restored. We still have to find our own water supply and dig boreholes, and some people still don't even have access to potable water. We're still struggling to fix roads. Where do we go from here? Yes, do we have reason to celebrate because we are growing? And for some people, we'll say Nigeria is still relatively young compared to the West and other countries we compare ourselves with. But what are we doing as a people and as a nation to ensure we have a better Nigeria? Joining us for this conversation today,
We have Igor Akeriga, who's the president, Civil Liberties Organization. Good morning and welcome to the show. And we also have joining us Busola Ajibola, who is the deputy director, Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Nigeria at 63?
Yeah, so like you said, we have reasons to celebrate. Well, we're here, we're growing in numbers, but can we be better than where we are right now? I think that's a very big yes. Do we have leaders that are doing enough to ensure that we should be in that spot where we are supposed to be? I think that's a big no, sadly so. And do we all have a role to play in, making Nigeria a place where people can live to their full potentials, like live a life that is purposeful and that is, fulfilling? I think all of us have a role to play in that. So this is going to be a national conversation. It's not just a conversation that would live at the feet of just our leaders, but also those of us that are followers.
Okay, Igor, could you also reflect on the journey so far, getting to year 63?
Well, for me and for us in the civil society movement, the country we call Nigeria today is, for us, is a contraption. It's a contraption to the extent that the very foundation of the country itself is at the root of the national crisis that we face today. If from the Little Tree Constitution and the 1953 Constituent Assembly and all of that, historically, if you trace it, you find that our colonial masters, the British, actually set a booby trap for the country, and that is what we are still grappling with. Now we have sectional leaders, whether you're a Northerner, a Yoruba man, Igbo man, I'm from the Niger Delta, for example. How do you build a country on the basis of a 40 tripod of 3 big tribes, and then you leave out the other ethnic nationalities? So we do not have a Nigerian-based constitution. We have a foisted document, and I agree with Bayo Adebanjo of Afenifere, who has always advocated consistently that for Nigeria to move forward, because 63 years on, if you ask yourself honestly, we are not competing at the global stage. We have individual talents here and there, whether it is in sports, it's in ICT, it's in music, entertainment, individually, but we do not have, we are not building a concerted effort to try and engage with the rest of the world. And that is at the root of our national crisis. We have very weak institutions. We are still battling with issues of people parading forged certificates, forged documents. There's no other country in the world where leaders are recruited from a controversial background, Not only the current president whom we have to, take our case to the United States, such a shame, it's a dance of shame. As a Nigerian, I feel very shameful. As it's true, we shouldn't be doing that. It's only in Nigeria that you take our leaders to Chatham House to engage. What do they discuss in Chatham House? Do they take Ghanaian prospective leaders to Chatham House? Which other African country leaders go to Chatham House? What do they tell them in Chatham House? And how do they come back to Nigeria when they win power and then they do not deliver on democracy expectations of Nigeria? So there is, for me, a 63-year-old man is a very, very old man, because in the 63, 7 years, you are a septuagenarian, you are 70 years. And then you should be marking time. The Bible says three scores and one. Or so that's at 70, you should be thanking God that you have lived long enough to be able to count your blessings and say, okay, this is what I've achieved. So beyond, apart from maybe former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who made good attempt to build institutions, the NSCDC, the EFCC, and all that. He did that, and we give it to him. It's a credit. But after that, what have we been seeing? We are just in a macabre dance at the political stage, people coming to defend their ethnic cleavages, and then when they do not get that, then they try to sabotage the rest of the country. It can't work. How do I come from the Niger Delta, who produce the resources of the country, and Bayelsa State, for example, 8 local governments, and then you say Kano is 44, Jigawa, that was created from... Very lopsided constitution that have skewed the distribution of national resources in favor of those who drafted the constitution, and they cannot work.
You know, this current administration is now over 100 days in office, and I've heard your different points, which are very valid about the current administration. However, moving forward as a country, we had this dance around certificates with President Buhari for over 6 years, and he was still in power. Now we have a president who has been inaugurated, and the first court has affirmed him pending the Supreme Court. What do you think leadership should prioritize in improving Nigeria's development at the moment? And we'll start with you.
Well, what we need to prioritize is very clear constitutional reforms. The All Progressives Congress, under former President Buhari, set up a committee to review the constitution. And even by the APC constitution itself, they agreed that Nigeria should be reworked to reflect true federalism. So I will expect President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to do that immediately. He himself is a Democrat. I was in the trenches in Lagos. He was one of the very strong voices in ADECO and the pro-democracy movement. So now he has a mantle. He's doing well. He has appointed some people that I believe in, people like former governor of Enugu State, Devu Mahi. He's speaking the right words that people want to hear, but again, we're waiting for the action. For the FCT, Wike is there, whether anybody likes it or not. For me, Wike is my man any day, because we cannot continue to do things the way we are used to doing them and expect a different result. Look at the nation's capital. There's no security. As I was driving here, no fuel, nothing is happening in the nation's capital. So you do not have a minister who just sit there for 8 years, as we had in the last 8 years under Buhari. The last minister was a complete failure, just as the man who appointed him. So we need to seriously build a country so that you'll be proud to call yourself a Nigerian. We start with constitutional reform, genuine constitutional reforms, so that you do not fill forms and they ask you about your state of local, your religion, the languages you speak. You should fill your form and say you're a Nigerian, and this is your area of core competencies that you can offer. So there's too much emphasis on certificates, and that is why people are desperate to go and forge certificates, and then that is also at the root of our leadership recruitment crisis. So the president has to fix the constitution. We need to practice true federalism. You can't take resources from one part of the country, take it to the other part, who actually bring nothing to the table. As far as so we cannot run a parasitic nation and expect that everybody is going to be happy. There cannot be competitive growth if you are just lazy, you are lascivious, you just lazing around, and then they bring at the end of the month you come to Abuja, then they give you some largesse, you go back to your state and share, and that is also at the root of national corruption that we have. So there are a whole lot of challenges we have to deal with, and it has to be a holistic approach.
Yeah, amazing. I've just gotten a lot from what you've said, and you've made very interesting points. But Busola, going back to the anniversary itself, can you highlight areas where Nigeria has made significant progress, significant achievements over the last 6 decades?
Well, I would think that we've somehow, like that, I mean, I think he made reference to that we've somehow been able to do well in throwing up individuals that are shining stars, not just in Nigeria itself, but even in global on the global stage. So you would know that the conditions in this country would naturally stifle a person, from attaining your potentials. But within all those skills, within all these underdevelopment structures that we have, I mean, you see people like Amina, who works with the United Nations. You see tech people who have done fantastic things in the tech sector, in the banking sector, in the development sector. What I find worrying, however, is that why does it take lifting up those people, like taking them out of Nigeria into other structures before they thrive? What are those factors that are limiting us? Sometimes I think that beyond just, maybe counting on those individual wins that we've been able to record, that we need to come back and begin to look at the kind of people that we throw up into leadership. You know, there's something, a concept that I came across a couple of years ago. It's called I think it's kakistocracy, which means we throw up the worst of us to lead us. So in the past few decades, what I've seen is that we've been able to throw up leaders who are not genuinely interested in the growth and the development of their people. I think that is wickedness at the core of what it means to be human. You go to other countries, you see systems that are functioning. You see transport systems that, everything works to precision. You see leaders that are genuinely interested in ensuring that nobody in their countries go to bed without food. These are basic things. And then we have leaders who would rather invest heavily in propaganda when we're talking about human development. Leaders who just want to tick the boxes. And this is a nation of 200 million people. And look at the number of young people that are risking their lives in the desert, crossing oceans, willing to die, because they are fleeing the country. Why, if we have people who cannot, come up with an original plan that can move us from where we are, which is at the drench of poverty, can we have nations that have crossed that hurdle, right? That have been able to make things work in their own system. And you all go there, our leaders all go to those places. Can you just borrow what the structures that they have used and bring it here, modify and move us forward? So yes, when I came into the studio, I saw those young people, those young children, maybe 7 or 5, playing the national. I was teared up because every day, sometimes the kind of work that I do in the media, I'm asking myself, what's the point? What's the point? But again, I'm reminded today that I cannot lose hope, and we all cannot lose hope, because it is for those kind of children that we need to go back and give to this country what it deserves, the kind of patriotism that it deserves, and that people should begin to reflect on who are your leaders. When you have the opportunity to choose leader, are you really choosing people that would reflect and protect your interests? I think that's something that we all need to go back and think about seriously.
As we wrap up, for both of you, I watched with huge disappointment when Dave Umahi went to work at 9:05, and at 9:30, only 5% of the staff were in the office, and they protested. And I was also disappointed that he had to apologize to them. I do commend him being democratic enough, but let's talk about the people. We are in media. It's people in the media who are being paid for propaganda. The youth complain, but they're the ones who are being paid to be influencers for these politicians and to drive such narratives, or the ones who are supporting the tribal and religious sentiments. I want both of you to talk to Nigerians in your closing statements. What role do we have to play?
So I would start from saying, poverty is a thing. And I think our leaders, as bad as most of them are aware that poverty can be used as a weapon. And indeed, they are using poverty as a tool to manipulate a lot of people. But I think that as Nigerians, and like everyone who is watching me, right, I think we need to come back and nudge ourselves that if you have an opportunity to exist at all, it definitely has to be because you have a purpose. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where somebody would take, so we're supposed to have 10 slices of bread, right? And somebody takes the whole loaf and then decides to give you just one loaf so they can have the remaining, you should know there's a problem. And that we all need to stand up for this nation. This country needs all of us, right? So when you wake up in the morning, I think we could look ourselves in the mirror and ask, what are you giving back to this country? So maybe that would help us. Our accountability, if we are able to think like that, wherever you find yourself, whether you are in the accountability sector, whether you're in the media, whether you're in politics, whatever it is that you're doing, you'll probably be able to, check yourself and maybe do better. Do better and be a part of the reason why this nation is developing.
Well, Nigeria is the biggest black nation on earth, the biggest black nation that is practicing democracy. As Nigerians, we can't lose hope in our country. We have no other country to go to, and therefore, we need to organize, galvanize, mobilize to rebuild our country. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo was able to put the country back on the trajectory by working with the Bretton Woods, the World Banks to repay off all our loans. And I thought that at that point, Nigeria was going to start on a clean slate, but of course, we then had reversals. You know, the development trajectory was put on the reverse gear, particularly under former President Muhammadu Buhari. I want to charge and encourage President Tinubu this morning. He should not bother so much about the distraction, but he must have the political will to bring all of the individuals. He himself belongs to that ruling class. He must be able to bring all of the individuals who have put Nigeria in this sorry state, in this mess. Former President Buhari inherited about 33 billion, but as we speak, he left, and then we are still having discussions and conversations that he left just barely over 3 billion naira in the national coffers. That has pushed Tinubu to increase, to take out the subsidy, to do all kinds of things, raising taxes. It is a difficult task for him, but he needs now at this point to develop the political will to rebuild the country, no matter whose horse is God at this point. Like I said, he's doing well, he's making the right appointments. Excuse me, people cannot feel that certain appointments belong to a particular ethnic tribe in this country. So to that extent, I think that what Tinubu has done so far, I didn't support him during the election because I felt that he was the one that also that foisted Buhari on the country. When Buhari was military head of state, we knew what the country went through. There was so much poverty, there was abject, suffering. The people almost saw hell. And then he came back again, and people thought he was packaged as a reformed Democrat. He was wearing suit, wearing a tie. He was even putting on Igbo dresses, and so on. People thought that this man is a reformed Democrat. But that was the grand deception that was then foisted on the country, and we landed in the mess that we found ourselves. But as I said, we can't lose hope. We have a country to build. Everybody must then support this president, queue behind him to rebuild the country. But in rebuilding the country, the institutions must be made very strong. We cannot have a weak judiciary who makes controversial pronouncements over political cases. Look at Justice Nancy McDonald of the District Court of Illinois in the United States. Within a short period of time, she was able to decide very clearly within the precinct and confines of the U.S. law and deliver the resounding judgment. That is what we expect that the judiciary should be doing. We expect the EFCC to go after every corrupt individual, whether you are highly placed, not people who still goes one chance robbers here and there. Go after the big thieves who have stolen the country dry, bring them to justice. People should be in jail. I heard now that after Design in Madueke, the EFCC is putting up papers to bring her back to the country. Yes, when you steal so much, run to safe havens in Europe thinking that you are safe, you must be brought back to the country to face justice. That way, Nigerians will be inspired that, corruption is not the way to go. So we should collectively build our country.
Thank you very much. Didi, what are your final words for Nigeria at 63?
Oh, my final words is that we as Nigerians should hold ourselves accountable as much as we hold the government accountable. And as you always say, we should start from, the people we can see, the leaders we can see, your councillors, local government chairmen, those ones, before you move to your state commissioners, governors, and go to the legislators and the executive eventually.
Thank you so much, and thank you to our guests, and happy independence to Nigeria 63. It's extremely important that we have these hard and tough conversations, and we must be honest with ourselves. Yes, we have reasons to celebrate, but we have a whole lot of work to do. That's how much we can take on today's episode of The Weekend Show. We'll be back to you next week, Saturday. You can watch our episodes and previous episodes on YouTube at Weekend Show NG. You can also follow us on social media at Weekend Show NG on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, and all of that. You can follow me on social media at Andy Madaki, and you can follow Didi
at Didi_ on X and Instagram.
Do have a blessed weekend. See you next week.